Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining Carrington West's Structural Engineering in 2026, Market Trends, Skills and the Future of the Profession webinar. We have got our numbers climbing quite quickly, so I'm just going to give it a minute or two to let people that are joining now enter into the webinar. Lots of AI note takers joining us there. That's interesting. AI is going to be one of the topics we're going to touch on later on with our panel. So I'll give it just a few more minutes. Welcome to this webinar. Got some interesting topics to cover this morning around hiring and trends and skills in structural engineering in 2026. Okay, it's 1 minute past, so I think we'll start. So welcome everybody to our webinar. Today we're going to have a bit of a panel format. So if you could go through to the first slide, please. I'm supported today by my technical gurus pressing slides for us. Our panel today, we are Carrington West. So I'm the marketing director. We're a recruitment company based down in the South Coast, and we specialise in engineering, surveying, planning and technical staff for the built environment sector. Joined today by Claire Chinard, who is the lead consultant here. She works almost exclusively with structural engineers, and Department Manager Kent Street, who works across our buildings, nuclear and water sector. We're also joined by Kevin Payne from Wintec and Briley Purnell from Baker Hicks. So if I could just ask everybody to introduce themselves. Briley first, please.
Morning. Thanks, Amanda. So Briley, I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager for Baker Hicks. Baker Hicks is a multidisciplinary engineering and project delivery consultancy, and we work with clients in multiple sectors, including regulated and complex environments. And we support from, excuse me, early concept through design, construction to operational readiness. So the full life cycle.
Lovely, thank you. And Kevin?
Yeah, hi. Sorry, Kevin Payne from Wintec. I'm Associate Director in the Structures Department. Wintec are primarily known for facade consulting over the last kind of 20, 30 years, but more recently have moved into MEP and fire, as well as structures and civils. So at the minute we're a small team, but looking to expand quickly. And yeah, that's the kind of summary of Wintec, really.
There's lots of hiring going on there. We like to hear that. Claire?
Hi, good morning, everybody. So I, as Amanda said, recruit within the structural engineering design consultancy market and have done for the past 11 years now, working across with all levels of candidates. So see a lot of good insights from everybody, and working with consultancies from small to global companies. So get to see a good range of the market from both sides.
Excellent. And Kent?
Yeah, like Amanda said, I am the Department Manager for water, buildings and for nuclear. So obviously structures fall under the building side of things, and it also touches base with our nuclear team as well.
Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. And as I said, Carrington West, we're actually the official business recruitment partner of IStructE as of last year, and that's a relationship that we're progressing forward into this year and hopefully beyond. So welcome to everybody here who is an IStructE member. So before we go to our panel discussion, we have got a few slides and a bit of a market overview, which Claire is going to present. And this is based on our 2026 Market Insights and Salary Survey report. So over to you, Claire.
Lovely. Thank you, Amanda. So as said, obviously every year we collect data and give a little bit of an overview of the year before and predictions into 2026. I'll give a little bit of an overview of what I'm going to speak about now. So if Luke, lovely, thank you very much. So from a candidate perspective, obviously we're going to look at kind of the talent which is in high demand at the moment, coming out the back of 2025 into 2026. Obviously a big conversation topic is around the salaries and growth and what that looks like with different companies. Obviously we have seen that say fairly stable, but again I'll go into a little bit more detail around that as well. Again, definitely seeing the market pick up this year. You know, seeing companies with strong project pipelines, you know, working in multiple sectors are doing very well. And again, obviously the shift towards obviously digital sustainability, which is a key interest of the younger engineers coming into the market as well, and obviously keeping up with standards within the industry, and of course AI, which we've already mentioned, which will be a topic a little bit later on today. Luke, next slide please. So just to go into a little bit more detail on those areas. So what we really have seen in the market end of last year coming into this year are, you know, the strategic hires, the more senior candidates coming into roles. You know, we did see obviously a reduction in some teams over the last couple of years where the market had been a little bit more quiet, and people were looking to rebuild and bolster those teams again. So with that, we are seeing a demand for those experienced engineers, those capable of running and leading projects, but also as the kind of project pipeline increases, you know, those with leadership capabilities can run small teams and are able to give that mentoring support as well, and or, you know, provide support to younger engineers wanting to achieve chartership as well, if that's not already achieved. Salaries and market trends. So with that, we have seen a kind of a steady rise in terms of with inflation, no real sharp increases as such. However, we do see pockets where salaries are maybe inflated above the general market salaries. This is usually in occasions where maybe there's less attractive job benefits, softer benefits, flexibility, or maybe projects aren't as, you know, diversified or attractive. You know, therefore trying to attract talent into companies from a remuneration perspective in that respect, rather than the wider, you know, benefits and overall value that they could offer as a company. Motivations from candidates. So also you just talk about more the junior end of the scale and the senior end of the scale, as we are seeing a slight difference in that. So the more early careers candidates are, you know, they're focusing on, they want progression, you know, good support to chartership, you know, getting a good foot in the door and a good start to their career. You know, with, you know, opportunity to work on a wide variety of projects, and having access to more senior engineers within the business to learn from. With those candidates as well, we are seeing that they prefer to be in the office. They want to learn and be around people, soak in information that you get in that office environment, that help creates that learning culture. The more senior end of the scale, senior candidates, I think, of course, naturally off the back of COVID, hybrid working is a huge point within the market, and is offered by a lot of companies these days. And it's those senior candidates who have had that benefit of that flexibility, that work-life balance, that want to hold on to that and you know, deem that very important, you know, going forwards, if they were looking to move from companies going forward. Appreciate there's a balance there of having your senior staff in the office and being able to support the more early career candidates as well. Again, as always, I think progression and opportunity is a key motivator with most candidates at all levels, and candidates wanting clear progression plans, whether you're a graduate or a senior, you know, wanting to progress your career in the future within the company. Again, obviously on a slightly different subject, there are a lot of candidates that are sponsored within our market. It's a skilled short market. Obviously those candidates you know, they want job security over anything else. So you know, companies who are able to provide that over a longer term will attract those candidates. Next slide, please, Luke. So talking about project pipelines, again, it's those companies who are diversified in the market or have been diversified in the market, who have been able to dip in and out of different pockets of sectors, you know, have sustained well over the last year or so and have come into 2026 with a strong project pipeline, and are in strong positions to now start recruiting throughout this year, and have got trends more in line with kind of previous years, you know, replacing any attrition that they've had, and also focusing on growth of those teams as well from where they have been over the last couple of years. Those consultancies, obviously working both within the private and public sectors. The public sectors, we are expecting to see that to continue to increase the latter part of this year, following April, in addition to any private sector work that they might have already going on as well. Next slide, Luke. Thank you. So emerging skills in demand, obviously digital design, sustainability, retrofit expertise, of course, generally across the UK and in London in particular, we are seeing a lot of obviously companies involved in that, you know, retrofit market, commercial into residential, with obviously home working, office spaces not utilised as much. So obviously it's not just about the new builds of sustainability, repurposing buildings is a key skill that we are seeing in the market. And with that as well, that sustainability focus is definitely a key interest to the more early careers candidate coming into the market as well. Of course, hand calculations within structural engineers will always play a part in the market. It's a fundamental of the engineering profession, but the same with analysis software. Obviously, you know, BIM integration technologies, automation, AI, making things more effective. That is a key skill that we're seeing that is being utilised more and more, and that goes into the programming of software, and that's usually an interest of candidates coming into the market as well. And again, just touching on graduates, you know, going to early careers events with the IStructE, a lot of engineers are asking about companies' sustainability plans and policies that they'll have in place, and companies who are focusing on that do tend to be a lot in the forefront of candidates' minds who are looking at new companies to join out of university. Lovely. So just to summarise what we've got there, so in terms of candidate motivations, the more senior end of the scale, it's that work-life balance, the flexibility, you know, having young families at home. It's those senior candidates who've had that flexibility and that benefit, which, you know, works for their work-life balance at the moment. And, you know, even with key motivators, them wanting to move on in the market, or to a new opportunity, whether that's for, you know, progression opportunities or diversification of projects, and exposure to different things. A lot of the time the logistics of making that work will come down to whether they can continue that working pattern that they already have. So that is a key thing that we're seeing with candidates. If that can't be met, they're unlikely to move in the market. And those companies that do offer strong, you know, good all-round benefits, look after their staff, not just in the workplace from a professional point of view, but outside of the workplace. It's those companies who are bearing well in attracting talent. But yeah, the market, senior chartered engineers, it's always a skill which is short within this market. That's always going to be in demand. Those companies who can offer that flexibility will attract those candidates. But overall, you know, those who, whether you're graduate or senior, those companies who are offering diverse diverse work, secure pipeline, good support to chartership and progression, a good all-round benefits package will fare well in attracting talent in 2026.
Fantastic. Thank you, Claire. That was a really nice synopsis. So, and some interesting points that you raised there around, that difference between what candidates demand and what employers are offering and where they meet in the middle, especially in a specifically skills short market. So there's a few things that I wanted to touch on, starting with AI. If anybody, we'll have some Q&As from the audience that we can take at any time. And actually, I do already have one question, which may be worth touching on now before I jump into AI. And it's from Fiona. Thank you for your question, Fiona. It's kind of, I guess, directed to you, Claire, but I think it might be a really interesting one for you, Briley, as well. You mentioned demand for early career candidates for support to achieve CEng. Forgive me, I'm not an engineer, so I don't know all the acronyms correctly, but does this include, or is there also demand for support with registration as Eng Tech and iEng? So Briley, do you see that?
So I think my advice would always be to those in the early career stages is, aim for chartership, but focus on capability. CEng is often the word that's thrown around, but absolutely there's increasing awareness and demand for support towards iEng, Eng Tech, etc. Specifically in a multidisciplinary environment. So I don't think the demand is for a specific title. It's really just trying to make sure that you've mapped the correct pathway to support the route to CEng, iEng, Eng Tech. It's not going to be a one size fits all for every person that comes into their career in engineering.
Yeah, great. And Kevin, I know Wintec obviously has a graduate program, and you do a lot around supporting younger careers. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it's not just engineers; it's also technicians who are showing more of an interest in some of those grades of membership as well. So it's not just the engineers at the minute. I'm finding that they're kind of pushing qualifications and trying to learn more and tick boxes and want guidance and help through the process. Generally find that kind of chartered engineers can help with all of those levels and help progression with everyone. But yeah, certainly something on the other levels of membership I'm finding picking up.
Yeah. Okay. And Claire, across the board, is that would you mirror that?
Yeah, I agree. And I think obviously talking from a technician perspective, I think whether you're aiming for chartered engineer status, Eng Tech status, I think also what goes behind that is that ambition that you'd have as a candidate as well to want to achieve that. That shows something that you've got as a candidate, that you're aspiring to have that recognition within the structural engineering industry. But yeah, obviously appreciate we talk about engineers having chartered status, but obviously from a recruiter perspective, technicians who have that Eng Tech status, they know how buildings go together. They've got the understanding of the engineering side of things as well, and that does stand out within the market as a technician, and having that qualification and those letters after your name as well, definitely.
Brilliant.
Yeah, as you say, it's a kind of standard, isn't it? It proves that those technicians have reached that level and they can deliver those projects. They have an understanding of how buildings go together.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I hope that answers your question, Fiona. If anyone has any questions as we go along, please do pop them in the Q&A section. So I wanted to talk a little bit about AI now, because I feel like we can't talk about the future without mentioning AI in some form. Kevin, from your point of view, are you having those kind of conversations? Well, firstly, within your organisation, what are you doing internally to encompass changes that AI may bring about? But secondly, how would you then hire for that?
Yeah, so as I said, there's kind of two parts. One is AI affecting the recruitment process, and what AI are we using in our kind of day-to-day processes? I'd say that our company is not the size that with AI. I'm seeing much of an AI effect on recruitment, possibly on the way CVs have been written and formatted, maybe edited. Day to day, we're not using it for any kind of design processes at the minute. We're using things like Microsoft Copilot for improving report writing, improving quality of English and kind of general admin skills. Not necessarily in the design process at the minute.
Are you seeing candidates ask you any questions about AI when they're showing interest in your company, or?
No, not yet.
Okay.
No questions on that front yet.
Yeah, and Briley?
I think I have to echo what Kevin said. You know, as a business, we have an AI group within Baker Hicks where ideas are thrown around and kind of put into practice. But we're seeing the most usage of AI in our application process, where candidates are basically automating their applications,
Right.
and it's very visible. You know, things come across as a lot more polished and structured, and I think it's great to, as Kevin says, you know, kind of look at enhancing what you've already written. But I think one thing that you know, especially early careers need to be careful of is that while AI can improve what they've put together, excuse me, and how they present themselves, it doesn't change capability. And I think that you know, that authentic self needs to come through on their applications too.
Do you think there's a little bit, this may be for Kent as well, a little bit around the fact that there's kind of almost being scared into, if you don't polish it to the certain level, that you're not going to get past the AI that may be screening the application? So Briley first, I mean.
I don't know. I think that's a bit of a loaded question, Amanda, because, you know, on the one hand, I can't really speak for the majority of early careers to say that that's the rationale behind it. I think AI is a wonderful tool and we need to be embracing it. But I think it also needs to be used properly. And I think perhaps there's you know, it makes things easier. You know,
Right.
it makes the application process easier. It automates the application process for a graduate or for an early career or whoever's utilizing it. And so, you know, there's also the narrative of, you know, it can apply to multiple jobs at any time, which means it's getting a CV out there a lot quicker than you as the individual would sit trawling through websites applying for jobs, you know. So there's the positives to it.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, for us as a business, one of the commitments I've made across our TA team is that every CV will be reviewed by a human, because yes, we'll have certain criteria that's a baseline, you know, like any business would, on what our requirements are. But, you know, AI is going to be used. We need to sift through and see what's not being said on the CV or on the AI answered questions, because, you know, AI doesn't sift out or assess, you know, a capability.
Culture. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you know, it can draft answers for a candidate, but it can't replicate sort of authentic reasoning under pressure, or, you know. So these are the kind of things that we as a TA team will have a conversation with the candidate about, so that we can say, right, your CV might not fit here, but it might fit somewhere else.
Yeah.
So
it's very much around generative AI. And in terms of, you mentioned you have a tech team that's kind of keeping an eye on developments. At the moment, neither of you would be recruiting with AI skills to fulfill the role of an engineer.
No,
No,
absolutely not. I think we, you know, there will always be a need for human intervention in engineering. I don't think it'll ever fully be replaced. I think over time you'll start finding hybrid candidates where there's a strong drive towards automation, AI, and the tools that come with it. but there will always be that need for that foundational understanding in engineering and being able to do a calculation yourself as opposed to putting it through a machine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one thing from my perspective that might be AI driven is that as a frustration kind of interviewing people, you know, you sift through CVs, you get someone that you think's well suited to the role, but the CV, you know, your CV is supposed to tell yourself that's what the CV is there for. But some of them seem the discrepancy between the person that comes in for the interview and the CV that you've got seems to be kind of growing. And whether that's a result of AI polishing CVs, and you should be overselling yourself on a CV, but the gap just seems to be growing at the minute a bit, which is a bit of a frustration when you kind of bring someone in for an interview, start talking to them about their skills and where they are and their experience, and you kind of feel like the two don't correlate.
Yeah. Absolutely. We have had a couple of questions actually from the audience about AI around sustainability. One here, how does AI fit with sustainability goals that companies have? The two things seem at odds with each other considering the environmental impact. I don't know if that's a little bit off topic. I don't know if you've got any views on that, Kevin.
No, I'll be honest. It's not something that's come up so far. We're only using it for, you know, admin activities at the minute. It's not,
so we're not actually using it in the field, if you like, for your core activity. It's just in the hiring process. It's possibly, I think AI is just being used in processes. We use it in the recruitment process ourselves, but not to screen. At the moment, we're using it just to speed up administrative tasks. And Kent, you could probably, I don't know if there are any other sectors that you work with, like water or nuclear, where you're seeing AI being a skill in demand from employers for candidates, or if it's just a case of at the moment generative AI is admin.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is the admin side of things. I think a bit like sort of, you know, it's AI technology doing these self-driving cars, and the fear of it is not having a person responsible. And I think it's the same with engineering, right? If an engineering mistake was made by AI, who's responsible for the mistake? And you've got all of that side of it to debate as well. On the sustainability side, obviously, where I also run the nuclear and energy team, I know that's a huge area for that industry that is trying to make the data centers and everything that power the AI more sustainable. So I don't think companies using it have got the responsibility to look at that and see the sustainability problems coming from it. I think that's down to the people creating the software, and it's their responsibility. And it is something that is being looked into currently to try and prevent the amount of issues it's causing. And nuclear is a great example of that. You know, they're trying to create smaller nuclear power generation to power these data centers.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so moving on from AI a little bit now, what other skills, coming to you, Claire, I guess, I mean, you've mentioned some of them in your presentation, but what other skills outside of sort of maybe the technical ones are employers generally asking for when they're briefing you on a role?
Well, obviously, I know it's a big topic in the market with the Building Safety Act, but we're seeing more and more demand on, obviously, for high risk buildings, building safety cases, inspections of obviously more high-rise buildings, and report writing capabilities. Off the back of that, we're seeing that skill in demand quite a lot with a lot of our clients, and even consultancies that, you know, typically do your, you know, new build, you know, refurbishment, design, you know, that surveying and report writing, inspection work. It does seem that is being integrated more and more, and sometimes that it can be a little bit of a negative to candidates as well, that want to be involved with new build design, but are having to do a lot more of the inspection and report writing that we're seeing a lot more of now due to that. So.
And would you agree with that, Kevin? Is when you're hiring, are you looking for those extra skills for projects, or are you still able to kind of keep them a bit tighter?
No, I'd probably echo Claire on that one. At the minute, we're getting a lot of kind of BSR work in, and those are the skills we need to fill those roles and deliver those projects to clients. So yeah, no, I completely agree with Claire on that one.
Yeah, Briley?
I 100% agree with what Claire and Kevin have said. It's a skill that's required. Our engineers write their reports within the projects they work on. So it's just part of the day to day.
And is it a skill that people have, or are you finding that perhaps there's a bit of a disconnect?
I think it's something we mention, the ability to write reports. Have we ever had candidates rejected because they specifically cannot write reports? No. It's something that if somebody doesn't have the capability or the knowledge or have never done it before, as a business, we are very open to bridging skills gaps and teaching people how to do these things. So it's not going to be the baseline of why we won't hire somebody, but it will be something that we focus in building capability on, rather than, just kind of going, well, sorry, we can't bring you on.
So would that mean, Kevin, if you had candidates and one or two had that skill as a standout, and that experience already, would that put them above, or is it just, as Briley said, one of those things you can teach if it's missing and everything else is?
No, I certainly think it's something you can teach. It's also about experience as well. What have they done in their past roles? Have you been doing similar report writing? Are you a senior engineer who's maybe done similar work in the past? Certainly at the minute, I think the amount of kind of BSR work we're getting, it might well become one of the filtering processes, because we need someone to we need people who can get on these jobs, straight away and start delivering.
Hit the ground running. Yeah.
But there's a willingness to be able to train people up and work with them to produce the reports.
I mean, are there any other skills like that you are finding you're having to teach, or is this just because it's in demand? It's always there. It's always something you've had to teach people as they join or start their careers. Is there anything else like that?
It's probably it's always been natural part of an engineer's progression. You do a bit of design, you do some report writing, and that gradually kind of ramps up the further along the path you go. But it might, it's a bit more being thrown in at the deep end, I think, now that we need these reports, and it's something that clients are asking for. We need to deliver.
Okay, great, thank you. We have had a question actually from Stephanie, which will lead me very nicely into what we were going to touch on next. She asks, what's your view on the most common, most appealing hybrid working patterns? So I know this is something Claire did mention, and it is something that as a recruitment business we talk about a lot, because it's across the board, and I think Kent, you'll agree, it's across all of our sectors. For certain roles there is a big disconnect between what candidates are asking for in terms of hybrid and remote working or flexible hours, and increasingly what employers are willing to offer. Some are more flexible than others depending on their size, scale and projects that they're working on. Briley, what does your company offer? What seems to be the golden sweet spot?
So we work 2 days in office and the balance remote, and that, I think, allows a fair balance of spending time in the office, building relationships, being able to collaborate in person, and then having the flexibility of working remotely. I think we will always operate against a client or project requirement. If you've done your 2 days in the office and an emergency design review meeting needs to take place, that takes precedent over the benefits of working remote, and I think that kind of has worked well. I think also from an early career perspective, we do require our early careers to come in more frequently, and that's really just because there's so many benefits to an early career starter in being in the office, collaborating, dealing with different types of people, having that senior leadership presence, and not being siloed, you know, kind of on their own in a room working remotely. So there's definitely a lot of benefits to our early careers being in the office to date.
Just on that, Briley, as I say, generally across the market, most companies do operate a hybrid model now, whether that's, you know, 2, 3, 4 days in the office. What you've said about the younger engineers coming in, and that's definitely something which I see that they want that support in the office. With your 2 days in the office for more experienced staff, do you find that, do you have like a rota to make sure there's always senior staff in the office for those younger careers, just so that they're, you know, never left on their own? How do you navigate that?
So a bit of that, Claire, in terms of early career junior members of the team coming in. The more sort of senior to principal, associate level members will you know, kind of be in the office on a rota basis.
Okay.
But a lot of our offices are great environments, so people want to be there. You know, there are days where you can't, you know, you struggle to find a seat in the office because it's busy. And I think that's a really good reflection of the kind of environment Baker Hicks has created for employees. So even our senior level, when I say senior, I'm talking about sort of senior principal, associate, director level employees are in more frequently, you know, because it's a good environment to be in. So there will always be that cover for our junior to early career employees in the business. There'll always be somebody who's around to mentor and guide those level people.
Yeah, and Kevin, obviously it's a smaller business, so maybe a bit more challenging to get those patterns, you know, right for everyone to support those early careers people coming in. How does it work with you?
Yeah, I mean, officially the kind of WinTech line is that we've got 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, and that's what we try and recruit to. But it's difficult when, if you've got a good candidate who's maybe asking for more than that, trying to be flexible and work around that as much as possible. I mean, again, WinTech as a company, we've got, you know, people who are working in Italy, people who are working remotely in Spain, you know, full time, pretty much.
Yeah.
So
Bit more of a case by
so
case
much
basis.
Yeah, exactly. A bit more case by case basis. But you also have to weigh that up with other members of staff who might be in the office more often. You know, is employing someone on a more of a hybrid basis going to upset the kind of status quo, as it were? So I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure I've got a definitive answer on that. I think it's more case by case, as you say.
Yeah, I think as well, just to go back to Stephanie's question, obviously having an overview of the market and different companies, I'd say that the standard is probably 3 days in the office, 2 days from home. It's, yes, there's companies where, you know, 4 days in the office or 2 days in the office, but I'd say that sweet spot with a lot of companies is that 3 days in the office, 2 days from home, as a general ballpark within the market is what I see as standard from my point of view.
And candidates broadly are happy with that. They you know, they don't, I guess you get the odd one that will push for fully remote, but probably when they're a slightly more senior in a stronger bargaining position and maybe contract roles, etc. I find that. Stephanie did actually put a follow-up question, and I think this will be directed for you, Briley. We find that once hybrid pattern is established, childcare, etc., is planned around it, so that people are then unable to be flexible. You know, do you have that issue as well? I guess that's down to communication in the first place.
Yeah, I think you know, I don't know that I can answer this one in its entirety, because, you know, I sit in talent acquisition, not general HR. I'm dealing with those kind of things once people are established and employed by the business. But, you know, Baker Hicks has flexible working. And then further to that, we've also got flexi hours, which really helps from, you know, as a business, we're quite family orientated. So there are a lot of parents in our business, moms and dads, that are responsible for the childcare element, picking up, dropping off at school, etc. So, you know, we don't there's no fixed kind of like you have to be online at 8 o'clock and you have to finish at 5 o'clock. We have core working hours, and anything around those core working hours, we allow flexibility. If you want to do an extra 2 hours from 7 until 9 in the evening, and take that off on a Friday because you're going to need 2 hours for a sports day at school. There's a lot of flexibility around those kind of elements within Baker Hicks. So I think, establishing a hybrid pattern, most people have to do that if you're a parent, because you have to commit to those whatever time frames you're committed to, and we're okay with supporting that.
Yeah. I think, Kevin, I think you.
Well, I was going to say, I think we're pretty much the same as well. The only thing I kind of add to that is kind of during the interview process, kind of both sides being honest. Us, the employee explaining what's their policy. That this is the policy. Okay, there might be some flexibility around that, but also the interviewee saying, well, actually, this is what I need to do then, and being clear from the start, because I find it incredibly frustrating when you get further down the line and it's like, oh, well, I need to do this or I need to do that.
Yeah, so do we. I'm sure Claire.
I think the key is exactly what Kevin's saying. You need that. You need to be that honest about. I am a parent. I'm a carer. I am whatever I am, and this is what I need. And how can you support me with that? And you'll find most businesses with that communication will be able to do that. The difficult thing for senior leaders is they've got to create a culture that benefits everyone and the company, and culture is the most important thing for a company success. So there are certain limitations with hybrid working and flexi time and stuff like that to enable that culture to come through, because you do need to be together to create a culture in a way. I don't think fully remote businesses will be able to have the perfect culture when you don't speak to each other or have that sort of face-to-face communication. There's several different types of communication, and you need to be able to do all of them.
Yeah,
fantastic.
I was just going to say, just adding to that to you, Kent, as well. I think that culture, comes from trust, and building that at least initially. There's usually an expectation for people to maybe be in the office a little bit more to begin with, just to get to know work environment, systems, people within the teams on a face-to-face basis, and then having that flexibility.
Yeah, fantastic. We are actually running out of time. We actually only have 3 minutes left. It's just gone incredibly quickly, and there's probably a whole raft of things that we haven't had a time to cover. So if anyone does have any more questions, feel free to drop them to info@Carrington West or to Claire's email. You can find all the details on the website, and we'll endeavour to get the panel to answer as many as we can. Before we do kind of wrap up, I would like to just ask you all, what do you foresee, in a very succinct, short 30-second answer, what do you see as the biggest hiring challenge for yourself for 2026? Kevin?
So far, it's probably what I said earlier on about CVs overselling people compared to what the reality is. When they come in for interviews is really what I've seen so far this year.
So your top bit of advice is be as authentic as possible on your CV.
Exactly. You've got to sell yourself, but not too much.
Okay, great. And Briley?
I think just it kind of mirrors a little bit of what Kevin said around authenticity, and trying to find that niche of engineers who can not just deliver but also lead, mentor within a multidisciplinary environment. That's a scarce skill.
Yeah. Kent?
Yeah, I probably back in on that really. There is a lack of sort of more senior people in the market. There's a great influx of junior people coming through, but we need to get those skills up, and that's been the big skill gap so far.
Yeah, Claire, do you have anything to add, or?
Again, just senior chartered engineers, and going back to what I said at the beginning, those capable of running, leading projects, capability of running, leading teams, but then with that, you need an office presence. So, if they've already got flexible working patterns that can't be accommodated, it's going to be hard to find the right candidates for companies that don't have that flexibility.
Okay, brilliant. And in terms of candidates, does anyone have, like, aside from, you know, your CV, getting your CV authentic? We did have one question here from Munib. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. What do you look for in candidates applying for internships? So, I mean, you know, if you don't have the experience at the beginning of your career, Briley, what are you looking for on that CV?
So I would assume that also kind of mirrors apprenticeships, you know, that sort of on the job learning side of things. That desire, you know, yes, for apprenticeships, there will be the requirement to hit certain educational credentials to get into a university. But, you know, we hire a lot on attitude. And,
Okay.
you know, are you interested? Do you want to do this? You know, we will invest, but you also need to invest in yourself. And that needs to come through in what we see.
And Kevin, anything that stands out for you, which you're specifically looking for?
No, I think it's very much the same. You know, confidence would help as well. Being able to speak clearly and communicate yourself. You know, that's a big step as well.
A lot of those soft skills that
Yeah.
potentially are not necessarily part of formal education up to a certain point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we see a lot. Guys, we're 1 minute over. Thank you very much for your time and for your sage words. And we hope everyone enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please continue to send them through, or, as I said, email them to us and we'll try and get them answered. But thank you very much.
Lovely.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Amanda.
Thanks, everyone.